Hey everybody, it's Emma. Thank you very much for joining me in this not super attractive looking video, but it's the best I can do right now. I have been wanting to do a declutter of my stash for a long time, and here we are doing it. So this is going to be a very similar format to my last declutter series. I'm just going to go through the different kind of sections of makeup, what I have, what I want to keep, what I want to get rid of, why, all that jazz. So let's dive in. So as you can see right now, I've got foundation, primers, concealers, kind of the base products. So let's start over here with the primers. So I only have two face primers at the moment. I have this Prime Light from Milani, which I really like. It is similar to MAC Strobe Cream. I hear tell. I have not tried MAC Strobe Cream, so I can't say specifically, but it has this kind of almost pearlescent sheen. It's really beautiful. It leaves a very natural kind of dewy look to your skin if you use it on its own or under foundation. It works well under most of these foundations, so I'll definitely be keeping that. It's not something I use all the time, but I don't feel it's really cluttering up my collection. I use it enough. The last face primer I have is from The Ordinary. This is their High Spreadability Fluid Primer. Now I am almost done with this. I don't mind this primer. It's very silicone-y. It has a nice smoothing effect, and I find that it is necessary if I am using one of The Ordinary foundations. I don't love the what's it called, primer the primer or the foundations enough to repurchase them, so I'm not sure if I'm going to continue to use The Ordinary foundations when I have run out of this or what, because I do find them to be necessary for each other. I'll get into that more when we get to the foundations, but I will keep this and use it up. The only other kind of primer thing I have is the PhotoFocus eyeshadow primer from Wet n Wild. I've used this for years. I mentioned in a recent video that I'm maybe thinking about getting another kind because I'm finding that this is starting to crumble. It's starting to react funny on my eyes. It's great with eyeshadow, but for whatever reason, it's just not smoothing out on my eyelid as well as it has in the past. I find that it can get kind of crumbly and clump up on itself. I've never had that problem with it before, so I don't know if there's a formula change or if, you know, my skin, my eyelid skin has changed to where this doesn't like it as much. But I am on the hunt for another eyeshadow primer if you have a suggestion. All right, I have three concealers I want to talk about. The first one is the PhotoFocus concealer from Wet n Wild. I actually just took the stopper out of this. That's how low I am on it. So I am working my way through. I do want to use this up. And even though this is not the perfect concealer, it's actually my favorite one of the ones that I have. The colors are really good match. It blends in very easily. My problem with it is that it creases under my eyes. And I have not figured out a way to make it not crease, but I definitely do want to finish that up. The next two are sort of similar. I know some people say that they're dupes, but I don't necessarily agree. The Naked Skin Concealer from Urban Decay, I have it in the shade Fair Neutral. This is just, it's a little bit too pale for me, and I'm finding that it is already, I got this for half off. Not this past Ulta sale, but the one before it. And I'm finding that it's already kind of going a funny texture. I remember this happening with my first tube of it, but I had gotten a little bit more use out of that first tube. So I'm glad I didn't pay full price, but I'm finding that it's not blending in as well as I would like it to. When I blend it under my eyes, especially with a finger, it tends to just peel off. When I blend it in with a brush, it seems to just disappear. I don't know why I loved this concealer so much because it didn't crease on me, but I just don't see myself reaching for it very often. Ditto with this. This is the NYX HD Concealer. I have it in the shade CW02, what is that? Fair. It's fair. This has a similar kind of light texture. This is a shade that's kind of in between the Wet n Wild and the Naked Skin. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I don't feel like it covers anything. I don't feel like every time I use this, I regret it, basically. So I think both of these can be decluttered. I have a couple brow products to mention. The first one is my favorite at the moment. This is the Wet n Wild Retractable Brow Pencil. I've talked about this a lot in other videos. I love it. It's got a spoolie on one end. It's got kind of that triangular nib on the other. I love the formula of it. It lasts amazingly. Love this pencil, so definitely going to keep that around. This next pencil I have is also from Wet n Wild. This is the ColorIcon Brow Pencil, so this is one that you have to sharpen. It's in the shade Brunettes Do It Better. I got this when I dyed my hair and I needed a darker brow product. So I'll probably keep this in my collection for that. It's definitely not a bad pencil, but I don't reach for it over the retractable one, if that makes sense. I would definitely recommend the retractable one over this, but this is a really great option for less money. It's got a very nice spoolie, so, you know, if you're in a pinch, this will serve you. The last brow product is also from Wet n Wild. This is the MegaClear Mascara. I got this as a brow gel. I never use it. I don't tend to use brow gels very much. It's already getting super scuzzy looking. I'm probably going to declutter this just so I don't use it. I have a kind of pear soap thing. If I really want to put a gel through my brows that'll last, that's kind of the best way to go, so this can go. All right, on to the good stuff. Foundations. This first one is one of my favorites. It's from Buxom. It is the Show Some Skin Weightless Foundation. I have it in the shade Tickle the Ivory. This is a really great kind of light to medium coverage foundation. My only complaint about it is it doesn't last as well as I might like it to, but it's also a lightweight product, so you know, it's not claiming to be 24-hour wear or anything. But if you are looking for a lighter coverage, very natural looking, will blend into your skin, I highly recommend this if there is a shade that will match you. These ordinary foundations, I have review videos on my channel. These were really great when I first got them. They work really well with the Ordinary Primer, which I mentioned earlier in this video. I have both the Serum and the Coverage Foundation. I have them both in 1.1N. And like I said when I was talking about the primer, they have a tendency to kind of break apart and have this weird texture on my skin if I don't use the primer. Now, if I'm honest, I definitely use the Serum Foundation way more. So I know off the bat I can let go of the Coverage Foundation. It's not something that I ever wear on its own. I just have other foundations that I prefer, which I'll talk about in a second. So this I can definitely declutter. The Serum Foundation, however, I think I will keep around and mix with other things at least until the primer is gone, and then, well, I'll have to check back in with you. The next one here is the Naked Skin Foundation from Urban Decay. I have it in the shade 1.0. I really like a lot of aspects of this foundation. I love the finish of it. The shade match is pretty much perfect for me. It's a little bit more coverage than the Buxom foundation. This is a really easy foundation to just slap on, especially if I'm only going on certain parts of my face. Because the shade match is so good, I can just kind of put this on my nose where I tend to be red and leave the rest of my skin alone, and my face doesn't look awkward. The smell is not great on this product, although I do appreciate that it's not perfumed for sure. It definitely just smells like whatever this is made out of. So I will definitely keep this one around. I don't know if I would repurchase it or not, but I definitely am enjoying it while I have it. The next foundation I've almost used up. This is the Kat Von D Lock-It Tattoo Foundation. This is my favorite foundation that I've tried so far. even compared to the Buxom. This is the opposite of the Buxom foundation. This is a full coverage. It's a little bit more, well, I want to say a little more heavy just because it's fuller coverage, but it doesn't feel that heavy on the skin. My problem with it is that it's not the right shade match, so I always have to mix it with something. But I think I am close enough to finishing this. This is the shade Light 44 that I can justify picking up another shade this next VIB sale at Sephora. What I love about this foundation is A, it wears beautifully. It will still be on my nose at the end of the day, which is saying a lot. My nose just repels foundation, especially as the day progresses. The finish on the skin is probably the best of any foundation I've tried so far. Every time I use this foundation, my skin just looks amazing. It's smooth. It's not patchy anywhere. The foundation doesn't streak or miss spots. It's just absolutely beautiful, and I can't wait to get a shade that actually matches my skin a little bit better. It's in different packaging now, at least visually. I think it's still the kind of airless pump, but I absolutely love this. I have two more foundations, both from Wet n Wild. This first one is the Wet n Wild PhotoFocus foundation. I have it in the shade Nude Ivory. It's just a little bit too pink for me, and even besides the fact that it's not quite the right undertone, I'm not a big fan of this foundation. I know people love it, and I can definitely understand why. It's a great foundation, especially for the $5 or $6 that it is. What I don't like about it is that it sits on top of the skin. I really want / need a foundation to blend into my skin. I don't want it to look like makeup, and even something really heavy like this Kat Von D, it does that. It looks like it's my skin, and this doesn't, so I don't use it. And so I'm gonna let it go. This is Wet n Wild's latest foundation launch. It is the MegaCushion foundation. I love the packaging, at least the look of it. I suppose the actual packaging is a little annoying, but I don't really care. My problem with this is in the shade Light Ivory, which is the lightest shade they have. This dries down to be just a little too dark. However, I love the finish of it. So I do want to keep this around, try it out in the summer and see if it works, because it is a really pretty foundation. My one concern, besides obviously the shade difference, is that it is perfumed. It is fragranced, which, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know my skin does not really like fragrance. I've only worn this a couple of times because the shade isn't quite right. I didn't have any reaction those couple of times, but it was only a couple of times. So I do want to keep this and try it out a little bit more, but there we go. All right, last but not least, I have these face powders. This first one is from e.l.f. This is their loose translucent powder. I loved this. This is probably my 4th tin of it. I noticed recently that this tends to kind of ball up on my skin. Now, I don't know if it's because this has just been kind of sitting in my drawer for a little while, or if I'm just more aware that this powder can look a little bit cakey, but I don't use it because it looks cakey. So I am definitely going to declutter this. I'd be curious if anyone uses this though, because I do remember loving this powder, and I don't know if it's because I didn't know any better or maybe this really just has been sitting in my drawer for too long and it's a great powder, but maybe I just need a fresher container, if you will. So let me know. Next powder is also from e.l.f. This is the e.l.f. Finishing Powder in Fair Light. I've really enjoyed this powder. You can see that I have panned it. However, as I mentioned in a recent video, this has a tendency to make your base kind of darken throughout the day, which is not great. And so I haven't really been using it. I don't have any foundations that need to be deepened, so that doesn't help me out at all. So I think I will be decluttering this, even though there's a part of me that's like, no, just stick it out, you've hit pan already. But, you know, if I'm not going to use it, if it's just going to make my face darker than I want it to be, then what is the point? So this can go. Which leaves me with one lonely little powder. This is from Wet n Wild. This is the PhotoFocus pressed powder in Warm Light. I really do like this powder. It's a very beautiful texture. It doesn't look too cakey. It's very soft, and it leaves a very natural finish on your skin. I do want to find a good mattifying powder. So if you have any recommendations for a more mattifying powder, then I would appreciate it, because I like having the option of having a more natural look, but I am also really missing the option to mattify a little bit more, especially where I tend to be oily. All right, so these are the items that I was able to declutter out of my base collection. I feel good about it. I don't feel that my collection is too crazy in the base area anyway, but it's nice to clean out what I can. I'm a little bit nervous as we move more into eyeshadows and things. That's where it's gonna get fun, folks. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was entertaining, interesting to watch. I personally love watching declutter videos. Apologies for the less than sexy setup and all the wires and stuff, but hey, we work with what we got. If you have any questions, comments, feedback of any kind, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.